Welcome to the study of watershed. Now we are going to learn about watershed and their role in our world. No matter where you live in the world, you live in a watershed. Before going to the study of a watershed, everyone should know the role of a river in watershed study. Of course, everyone know what is a river. It is a body of water that flows towards the sea. It has large volume of water and its size varying from small to large. But where from it gets so much of water? To answer this question, we have to look its source of origin. Where from the particular river gets its water? Rightly saying from the hills or ridges means a group of hills where water starts to flow out from highlands to lowlands. Then how the hill gets the water? Of course through the precipitation, snow melt water and also from spring as a major source of water mainly from underground. As such, the water that flows from hills of adjacent area to small gullies, creek, brook and stream. Thus, two or more streams from adjacent two or more hills flow from different directions. Finally, this stream drains and merges with the main stream. This main stream usually called as river basin or drainage basin. Thus, the river has formed. It has major role in watershed study. That is, every river is part of a large system. That is a watershed, which is the land drained by a river and its tributaries. Let me have a look on what is a watershed. A watershed is an area that catches the water that falls to Earth's surface and drains it over land or underground. Thus, a watershed represents land area usually contains a well-connected stream network and well-defined outlet or discharge point, where the representative area drains when rainfall occurs. The watershed is commonly known by different names. It is often referred to as a drainage basin, river basin, sub-basin, catchment, sub-catchment or sub-watershed. No matter what name does it indicates, but the definition of it remains the same, as an area of land that ultimately drains downslope to a common outlet. Then, how does watershed get water? Definitely, it is from the river sources, also called the headwater. Is the beginning of a river, often located in mountains. The source may be fed by an underground spring or by runoff from rain, snow melt or glacial melt. When it rains, the rainwater hits the ground. It can get to a stream the slow way or the fast way. The slow way is by soaking into the ground and creeping through the soil. Slow is good because it allows the soil to filter and clean the water. It also prevents all of the water from getting to the stream at the same time. It facilitates to move the top to stream. Why does the water from the stream is flow towards downslope, or why does the water flow from higher to lower region? Because of gravity, of course. The pull of gravity ensures that water settles at the lowest level. Let us talk on a size of watershed. Not all watersheds are the same size. Some are big while others are small. Why does this happen? Because with the distance, the downstream or downslope, the drainage from small adjacent watershed converges to form large stream, rivers or lake. Eventually, this water enters into a large body of water such as the ocean, a gulf, an inland sea or a freshwater lake. Thus, large watersheds are made up of many smaller watersheds, each containing a main drainage that contributes to the next larger drainage or watershed. The size of watershed are mainly three types, that is, small watershed, medium watershed, large watershed. The small watershed occupies an area of approximately less than 250 km square. whereas the medium watershed occupies an area of between 250 km square to 2500 km square. The large watershed occupies an area of more than 2500 km square. Next is drainage divide. What is a drainage divide? Of course, we know that watershed is a region of land within which water flows down into a specified body such as river, lake, sea or ocean from the ridges or the hills. That is, this ridge or hills separate two watersheds are known as drainage divide. Let's move on to know the catchment area. It is an area of land where water collects when it rains, often surrounded by hills. As such, the water that flows over the landscape, it finds its way into the stream and down into the soil, eventually feeding the river. Catchment area are separated from each other by watershed. Catchment area are divided into sub-catchment also along the lines of elevation. Next comes drainage basin, that is area drained by a river and its tributaries. Its borders are well defined by water divide that separate it from the other drainage basins. All the surface water in this particular areas flow into a river through rills, gullies, rivulets, tributaries into the master streams and drains into the sea or lakes. It is used interchangeably with catchment area. It is the same as a river basin. So, drainage basin, catchment area and river basin mean the same as in the Oxford Dictionary of Physical Geography. This is the picture which shows the example of river basin or the drainage basin, that is the area drained by a Ganga river and its tributaries. Let's have a look on a comparative picture of catchment, river basin and watershed. In the picture, the circled one along the tributaries of a major river indicate the catchment area of a river, where a river drains the water collected from a specific area. Actually, a catchment area means a river drains the water collected from a specific area, which is called its catchment area. Let's have a look on a river basin. An area drained by a river and its tributaries in the picture itself shows that the river basin or the drainage basin. Next comes to the watershed. The broken line along the major river and its tributary shows the watershed of a river. That means a river has many watersheds. It may be micro watershed, sub watershed according to its size. Thus, the river basin has many watersheds. Watershed is smallest unit of a basin. Then next comes the components of watershed. Broadly, a watershed have 5 components, that is watershed boundary, sub-basin, drainage divides, stream network, outlet or the pour points. Next, we have look upon a components of water. There are 5 major components have noticed in the picture. They are watershed boundary. It is represented by green shade, that is bounded by mainstream, in which light green color which represent the sub-basin, that is larger watershed and can also contain the smaller watershed is known as the sub-basin. Black line represent the drainage divide, that is the boundary between watershed. The blue line indicates the stream network and the outlet or pour points is the point on the surface at which water flows out of an area. It is the lowest point along the boundary of a watershed. This is the picture which shows the difference between upstream and the downstream. That is upstream, moving against the flow of a river from low land to higher land towards its source. It always points to the river's source or headwater. Whereas downstream, the direction of a river flow from its source to its mouth, from highland to lowland area, always points to the end of a river or its mouth. This image which represents the comparative picture of river and its watershed boundary. First of all, A river and its boundary with dotted blue line indicate the comparatively micro watershed, whereas the B river and its boundary line with the pink line indicate the watershed boundary of a B river. whereas the sea river and its watershed boundary dotted as green color indicate the watershed boundary of a sea river. Thank you everyone.